what I'll do is I briefly give you an overview from the point of view of Dzogchen, how the universe is constructed, how we are constructed, and look at that, the implications from that of practice. It's very natural to sneeze. As we were looking this morning, what we have is the immediacy of our experience and simultaneously a flow of a lot of organizing ideas. These ideas are themselves part of the immediacy of our experience, but it can appear as if they're two different phenomena. In the tradition of Dzogchen, the first and most important thing is to see directly or to recognize what is our own nature. Nature here means what is already given, that which is not a construct. As the Buddha said, all created things will move towards destruction. Everything that has a beginning will have an end. No matter what we build up, sooner or later it starts to collapse. We see that externally with kingdoms from the past, with huge powerful regimes like the USSR. Gradually they start to implode. Nothing lasts for very long. The British Empire used to be vast. Now this is quite a small country. Everything which has come into being through the use of effort will remain for a while and then gradually will just dissolve. Which means that whatever you effortfully construct will not survive in the long term. That which survives is that which is not constructed. Is there a part of us which is not constructed? We live most of our lives in culture rather than in nature. That is to say, we are always interpreting our existence. We make plans for things that we might do. We have frames of reference through which we make sense of things. Is there anything which is just there, just given? As we were looking before lunch, when we inspect the mind, we find that thoughts, feelings and sensations are changing. So what is this change occurring in? So here we are, sitting here, having experiences of various kinds. Hearing sounds, seeing colors, our own bodies moving, being aware of the movement of other people's bodies. This is continuous. Stuff is happening. Central question is, who is this happening to? Who is the one who has this experience? Our mind is both presenting itself in terms of our personalities, the mode of our engagement in the world with others, our choices, the things that we're drawn towards, the things that we shy away from. And our nature and our mind is also something which is just an awareness which is not the personality. For example, if you like chocolate, that can be something that you might know about yourself. I like chocolate. But we're also aware that we make a statement, I like chocolate. I like chocolate doesn't remain very long. You have to say it again, I like chocolate. You may feel, yeah, but that's just the saying of it. I always like chocolate. But of course, if you've eaten a lot of chocolate, you don't want any more chocolate. So the liking of chocolate in its experience and in its statement lasts for a period of time. So who is the one who says, I like chocolate? Because that one can also say, I'm tired, or I'm thirsty, or I want to go for a walk. The sight of speaking, the sight of what seems to be the center of our existence, is able to offer hospitality to many, many aspects of our identity. I am hot, I am tired, I am thirsty. No, I don't need any water, I'm not thirsty anymore. Who is this self? What is this self, which can be this, can be that, can be the other? How come I feel like I am one thing, although I am endlessly inconsistent? How can it be that I'm thirsty one moment, then having drunk some water, I'm no longer thirsty? I said, I am thirsty. I feel very thirsty, and now it's gone. My identification was with a passing phenomena, and in that moment, that passing phenomena felt like a definition of myself. Who said that? I said it. Who is the one who says I in I am thirsty? I want to. Just imagine that for yourself. Just run in your mind some of the things I am. It's immediately quite clear, isn't it? I am. All the things we could be, and in this moment we say, I am thirsty, I am tired. I can be many different things, and I am just this thing. In the moment of being just this thing, I haven't annihilated all the other things which I can be. Because you might say, I am thirsty and I am a man. I am a man who is thirsty. So being a man doesn't end because I'm thirsty, but in the moment of being thirsty, I don't care whether I'm a man, a woman, or a dog, or a cat. I'm thirsty. Just give me a fucking drink. No, there's something about all the rest doesn't matter. There's just this. That's what we have to watch. Because this is not abstract theory. This is our existence. How suddenly I'm this, suddenly I'm that, suddenly I'm that. There is no real contradiction to the fact that if I was one fixed thing, I could not be all these other things. It is my very emptiness which allows me to be everything. It is the openness, the unformedness of our basic being, what we are, how we manifest into the world, which allows moment by moment for us to be exactly, precisely just this and not other. This is the central understanding of Dzogchen. You don't have to stop being any of the things that you are, because none of the things that you are infinitely or ultimately defines who you are. What really defines who you are is the fact that you can't say anything about who you are. It is inexpressible, the openness out of which we become this and that. So we are both infinite and finite, and these are pulsing all the time. In order to find the infinite, we need to relax. In order to participate in the finite quality moment by moment, we need to be very precise. So we need discipline and clarity to be in the world with others, and we need no discipline and just to trust the natural clarity of relaxing into the open state. And these two are inseparable. Traditionally we use the image of a mirror to show this. The mirror is empty. When you look into a mirror, you can't find the mirrorness of the mirror. Inside the mirror there is always something else. The reflection is the aspect of the mirror which is other than the mirrorness of the mirror, and yet it's inseparable from it. When you look in a mirror, you don't see the mirror, you see something else. So in the same way, when we sit in meditation, just very relaxed, what do we find? We find stuff. This stuff is inside us, but it's not us in the sense we're not defined by it. You look in a mirror and you see the different reflections. You tilt it so that it shows all different parts of the room. Each of these images is truly in the mirror. but it's not the mirror. You can't take that reflection out of the mirror. It's in the mirror. In the same way, you sit here, maybe your back is sore, maybe your mind gets a bit busy. This is a reflection. This is you, but it's not really you. After a while, that reflection will vanish. The mirror will tilt. Something else will be revealed. Your mind is always full of stuff. Is that stuff you? If you think it's you, then, oh, how can it be that I'm so bad? All these years have gone by, and my mind is still full of nonsense. I'm still agitated, I'm still worried, I'm still troubled. Maybe I had therapy, maybe I've done meditation, Tai Chi, yoga. What's wrong with me that I'm still me? But that is exactly the problem. You think that you are me. Your mind is not yours. On the most profound level, your mind is not yours because it's open and empty and nobody could own it. You can't buy your mind, you can't sell your mind, you can't lose your mind, you can't find your mind. It's just there, it's just given. It doesn't belong to you, and yet it's the root of who you are. And on the other hand, all the stuff that arises in your mind arises due to causes and conditions which are interactive with other people. If someone says something nice to you, you feel very good. Then somebody says something horrible to you and you feel very small or very angry. They have made you angry. Now, if you go to some kinds of therapy, they say, oh, you have to take responsibility for yourself. You have chosen to be angry. Nobody can make you angry if you don't want to. Come on. It's not like that. That's to be very anal, to have a very strong doorkeeper that says, the message has been received, now I will review the message, now I will decide how to respond to the message. You can practice that. Some kinds of therapy also work on that basis. But it's very, very slow. Excuse me, I have to find out how I'm feeling. No, please don't interrupt me. You see, now I'm feeling this, you see? Only if you are dead and cause no disturbance in my experiential field can I truly tune into myself. It's mad. It's quite mad, because we don't actually have a front door to ourselves. This is useless as a door, because it's got so many holes in it. Burglars and robbers are getting in all the time. Squatters are coming and shitting in your front parlor. Stuff is happening. You are not inside yourself. Other people are inside you all the time, because you look around the room. And you can look in that corner, or that corner, or that corner, or that corner. Will you see yourself? No, you'll see some other bugger. Huh? All of these people, you have to spend your whole life looking at other people, when actually you'd prefer just to see yourself. But we are condemned to see other people. Our world is full of other people. It's not really full of ourselves. You can't see yourself. Terribly sad, isn't it? How lovely if you could just have your eyes that went out like a crab or something. But it's a fact. We are always full of the other. The other is what fills us up. This self is nothing but a continuous movement in reaction to other people. The mirror of the mind, the openness of the mind, has no limit, no boundary. Self and other arise together within it. There is no fundamental separation or duality of subject and object. Therefore, trying to protect the subject by keeping object at bay is a hopeless task, because you can't find the limit of yourself. What you can do is you can create a construct of yourself. You can say, I am this, I am this, I am this, and therefore, fuck off. How many times have I told you not to do that? We've known each other some time, and you still do this to me? Don't you know I am like this? People often speak that way, especially when they get a bit itchy, you know, they feel, fucking give me a break, get off my back, what about me? But in that moment, what about me? They're doing something that they don't do every day. Not everybody's walking about like a chimpanzee. Yeah? So suddenly, I'm willing to define myself, and I think you should know how I am defined. But it's just a passing moment, because we're not always like anything. We cannot define ourselves. Sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad, sometimes maybe we eat a lot of food, sometimes we don't eat a lot of food, sometimes we like sweet things, sometimes we like savory things. What is predictable about us? We go through phases. We go through periods when we're really into something and then we're not. And when we're in that phase, that seems to be how we are, and then it shifts and we seem to be some other way. This is what makes it so difficult. The definitions of self are concepts arising in the mind. They do not provide an accurate definition of how we are. Because everything that we can say which is true about us is not true about us. So, for example, I can say I am a man, and there's a kind of givenness to the fact that I'm a man. And yet, of course, the concept of man is very uncertain. And most men are not quite sure whether they're proper men. And they're not quite sure how should they be in order to be men. Should they be more powerful or more controlling or aggressive or tender or this or that? Because as long as everybody believes that we all know what man is, it's very simple. But as soon as you start to examine what it is, it crumbles away through your fingers just like sand. So when we assert things, it's a kind of hypnotic induction. Let me talk in a way that you can believe you know what I'm talking about. And then I can believe that I know what I'm talking about because I'm a man. But I don't know what it means to be a man. I'm not the same as my dad. I thought when I was small my dad was a real man. But I'm not like him, so maybe I'm not a man because I'm not like my dad. And if I was more like my dad, maybe I would be more of a man. How will I be? I don't know. How should I be? I don't know. We don't know how to be, do we? How should we speak? What should I say to my children? What should I say to my old mum? What should I say to my patient? We don't know. We say something. That's what we find ourselves saying. But we don't know definitely how to do anything very much, except for the simple technical things like making a cup of tea. But being human with other human beings is not technical. There's no rule book as to how to do it. We find ourselves doing it. And we find that the way we do it is influenced by bits of our history, our hopes, our fantasies, things that we've read. We're always constructing and making something into the flow. So, the mind's nature is empty and open, ungraspable, and at the same time revealing moment by moment shapes, patterns which we identify with or don't identify with. We like some things, we don't like some other things. As long as these reflections or movements are occurring inside the openness and they're just coming and going, we can stay fresh in the moment. It doesn't mean that there's a great deal of order or coherence, because spontaneity will always have different moves in it. The goal of the practice is not to be perfect in a formal sense, like a show jumper that can clear every hurdle. It's not having a perfect round in that way. Rather, it is to be present in our lives however they are. To be unbroken, unfragmented in the face of confusion. To be accepting of confusion, pleasure, happiness, sadness. Then the continuity of the openness is there. We relax into that, and the turmoil bubbles on, and we are not so identified with the turmoil. Buddhism says suffering comes from ignorance. Ignorance is not a fixed point. It is a practice of ignoring. When we ignore, when we don't attend to, when we don't rest in, when we're not present with the openness of our being, the empty stage on which all these dramas are being performed is forgotten, and there is just the intense focusing into the performance itself. This performance then takes on a particular reality, because all I've got is the show that I'm trapped in. I don't know how to get out of it. That forgetfulness is called the beginning of samsara. This is primordial ignorance. It happened a long time ago, and it happens moment by moment, where we forget the illusory nature of manifestation. The reflection in the mirror is there, and it's not real, but it's there. Our experience in this room together, clearly we are all here, but what are we here as? Flowing gestures, not solid, substantial entities. But once ignorance arises, there is attachment, because now I experience myself as inside my skin bag, looking out at you. I am me, you are you. I find stuff is arising in my head. I look at you, I can't see the stuff arising in your head. So I feel closer to me than to you, because I have more information about me than I have about you. I have to think about how you are, maybe have some empathy towards you, but as for myself, I can directly feel the inside of my body. I feel my feelings. So the me-ness of me feels more real than the you-ness of you. So I'm privileging this as central and you as peripheral. And I then seem to go out from me towards you. Going out from the certainty of me towards the question of who are you? Of course, there's always a question, who am I? But we become very quick at having answers to that question. So that who am I becomes small questions, petty questions, rather than a profound one. What is this? We're thinking, what do I want to eat? What do I want to drink? Do I want to go to the cinema tonight? Who am I going to sit next to? Where shall I go for my holidays? These questions are very busy filling the gap and constructing again and again an identity. But the answers we give to these questions can only suffice for a short period of time. What will I do at Christmas? But then Christmas will be gone. Oh, what will I do in January? Oh, what will I do in February? What will I do in the summer holidays? What? So we're tilted ahead of ourselves, going out, trying to fill the space, moving things around. That is very busy. There is no peace in that. Which is why in the Tibetan language, our situation is described as drowa, as moving or going. We are moving beings. We're always busy, always preoccupied. And the key thing is to see our real nature, the openness, the stillness, has not gone anywhere else. We are moving in stillness. It is the very fact of the openness of our being that allows us to move. But by being intoxicated by the movement, we don't attend to the stillness. And then we think, oh, well, I'll rest when I finish this. Oh, God, oh, well, I'll be retired in a few years. Then I'll be able to. Oh, at least when I'm dead, I'll be sitting in a box. There'll be nothing going on. Some little maggot will be starting moving about. Huh? It's always displaced somewhere else. When the movement stops, I will be at rest. But it never stops, not by day or night. Always there is something going on. Always busy. Hopes and fears, happiness and sadness, disappointments, confusions, intoxications, always something. The answer doesn't lie in improving the quality of the stuff. The real point of liberation is to integrate movement and stillness, to recognize that from the very beginning you have been a ballerina dancing in this exquisite open space, endlessly making these marvelous gestures, moving in space. And that space is your own nature. The unformed infinity of awareness perfectly matches you in every gesture you make. That's why you're present in your existence. We don't have to think about our existence. Somebody might say, well, what are you doing here? Oh, well, I'm here because I'm interested in Buddhism, blah, 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 blah. So you start to create a whole story, but you're just here. What are you doing? You don't know. Who knows what they're doing here? I don't know what I'm doing here. You know, I'm just doing something. That's how life is, isn't it? On a good day, you don't think about it. It's just bopping along. So the question of being is solved by being. As soon as we make being problematic, because we think, well, I'm not doing it right, I have to correct myself, the very act of correcting yourself always hides what it is that you have to do in order to just be correct, which is to relax and do less. Less is more. Which is why we have meditation, which is just about relaxing. Relax into space, mobilize with clarity in the movement. And these two forces can just keep pulsing together all the time. That's all there is. Opening and closing, opening and closing. You say to someone, oh, let's have a chat. You give them your full attention. They say, bye. And then you're off into something else. Then you're off into something else. If you've been fully there, then you're free to go to the next place. If you've been half there, when that comes to an end, where are you? Most of the time we're like that. We're completely unintegrated, fragmented, bits of us all over the place. Half of us in the past, half of us in the future. It's very difficult then. To be fully in one thing is not to get lost. To be fully in one thing is to be in everything. Because it's the quality of presence and being centered that each thing reveals that it's always part of the stillness out of which it manifests. So that's the real heart of this Dzogchen teaching. It's not enormously complicated. What is complicated is the fact that we're all buzzing. We're all doing this drug called ignorance. It's very strong. It's like Coke. We do it all the time. Hyperventilating, breathing badly. You know, getting the adrenaline going, getting the frontal lobes a bit out of it. We're buzzing on chemicals all the time. Relaxing. If you don't do anything, if you are no one, who will you be? If you stop being important, if you've lost everything, who would you be? Which is why in the meditation, what we want to just keep doing is letting go. So if we do this simple practice of saying these 3 R's, releasing the tension and just sitting, what is there? There's stuff. Now, if we can just let the stuff be stuff, some of it seems out there, some of it seems in here, somebody is there. The patterns of the stuff are changing. Thoughts and feelings and sensations are arising and passing. What our perceptual field shows us is shifting. Who is there? The center of our existence is to be nobody, and yet somebody. Not somebody in particular, but an awareness which is pure from the very beginning. Pure means it's not this or that. It's everything. That's a very amazing thing, to think that we, with our small little lives, our anxieties about this and that, that we are everything. How can we be everything? Well, when you walk down the street here, you can look out, and if the sky is still open, you can see the hills. Where are these hills? Well, you can say they're outside Macclesfield. If you look at the hills, where are they? They're with you. They are your experience. The hill is you. This is you. You look at the moon. Where is the moon? Is it outside your mind or inside your mind? If it's outside your mind, how does it get into your mind? Because now you're thinking about the moon. So where is the door of your mind? Does the moon have to pay to get into your mind, or do you pay the moon to get into your mind? How does it get in? The moon's very big. If your mind is in your brain, you have a problem. When you look at the moon, it's immediately there. When you hear the car is in your mind. It's very strange. I often fly about, so I sit in the aeroplane. This aeroplane's in my mind. I'm in the aeroplane and the aeroplane's in me. It's very strange. Life is very strange. It is just very, very strange. It doesn't fit the organizing box that we have, and yet this is how it is. So maybe my boxes are not so useful. Maybe the things I learnt in school are not really telling me how it is. Maybe actually allowing the world to be weird as it is okay, because basically it just keeps moving. The world was here before we were born. It'll be here after we die. We take our place for a while in this ongoing drama. Who takes a place? The aspect of ourselves which is manifestation. Now, according to the traditional Buddhist teaching, we come in contact with the Buddhist teachings, which means we have a precious human birth. It means at this time in this life, we have a chance to recognize the openness of our existence, which is inseparable from the movement of our existence. That's called awakening. If you see the two, there's nothing else to be done. There's nowhere else to go. Because the movement of life will never take you out of the spaciousness, because they're just together. It doesn't matter then if life is happy or sad. Often we think happy people are better off than sad people. But the spaciousness of the mind is not made of happiness. It's not a gingerbread house. It's not destroyed by sadness. We think from our dualistic position, goodness is wonderful, and bad things and sadness, that's terrible. We want to get rid of the bad bits and have the good bits. But the good and the bad come from the same source. This is the essential teaching of non-duality. It means there is no true difference between good and bad. There is no true difference between happiness and sorrow, because they have no inherent self-nature to them. They are contingent. Somebody tells us a joke and we laugh. Somebody tells us a sad story and we cry. The tears arise in response to the story. The laughter arises in response to the joke. And then it's gone. And then it's gone. These are the moments of experience. They arise and they pass. They arise on this open, infinite stage of emptiness. They are not different. The ground of everything is open. That is to say, there are no entities, no things, nothing fixed, and all sorts of causes and conditions move within that, bringing about the various things which arise. We have two possibilities. One is to focus just on what is arising and try to create the patterns we like. And the other is to see it's the ground. Human beings are very powerful interferers. If you're lucky enough ever to go to a place in nature which human beings haven't done too much with, you'll always see a lot of mixture. Because nature, ordinary environmental nature, has lots of winds and currents in it which bring seeds and all sorts of things. So in the high alpine valleys, when springtime comes, there are so many different flowers growing. Some of these things that are growing will be called flowers, some will be called weeds. If you bring that into a human garden, you start to discriminate. We like these flowers, we don't like these weeds. Out in the valley, it's just stuff. It's just stuff. The ground, the earth, supports stuff. It doesn't discriminate. The seed comes, the causes and conditions are right, and it comes. We, in our garden, say, I want the roses, I don't want this other stuff. This other stuff shouldn't be here, it doesn't belong here. And that's what we are doing all the time. So, the function of meditation is to trust that if we allow more weeds, they won't strangle the flowers. This requires some courage, particularly if you have a tendency, say, to anxiety or to depression, where you may feel that a mood can take you over and there's an anxiety, oh my God, if I don't try and control this, it'll be like this forever. I can't bear it. That is the point where we really have to trust the Buddha's teaching on impermanence. All things are impermanent. Stay with what is arising and you will see that it is impermanent. If you conceptualize it, you start to think, God, I'm still depressed, this is not helping, this is not helping, this is really not helping me, I can't, no, I'm stopping this. See that you build up these ideas in which you are not looking at what is there, you are telling what is there what it is. You are taking what is there and putting it into your template, into the patterns you have in your head. There is nothing fresh. How will you get enlightened? How will you get something immediate, direct, naked, fresh, when all you do is layer it into your own category? So, in the practice of meditation, we want to just stay with whatever is there. Of course, we have the habit of telling ourselves what is there. We know what is there. This is stupid. This is not meditation. I can't do this. This is a waste of time. I've had better ways of doing it than this. All sorts of messages arise. Just stay with them. As soon as you fall into a thought, into a concept, it will take you on a little journey. And then you get off that train and then another thought will come and that'll take you on a journey. You get off that bus and another little thought will come. And then you'll be in a taxi and you just sit doing half an hour of international travel. That's not meditation. Meditation is just calm and relax and watch the traffic. Just watch all this stuff going. You don't need to travel. You're tired of traveling. Just relax. Let it go. Oh, but it's important. And I need to remember that. That is very poisonous. That is attachment, which says the object is the answer. The reason for my existence, the nature of my existence, is going to be revealed to me by an impermanent passing phenomena, and if I don't grab it now, I'm going to lose out. So I better grab it. And when you grab it, it grabs you. And then you're gone for a bit, and then you're back again. The answer's not in the object. Whatever we need is already there. This is the central teaching of Dzogchen. The Buddha, over there in the corner, is called Kuntuzangpo. Kuntuzangpo means always good, always already good. It means it's fine, it's sorted. We don't believe that. Because we've got so many things to do. Christmas is coming. How many more bloody things have you got to do? Shopping, presents, wrapping them. You've got enough wrapping paper. You've got the right sort of sellotape. Did you send cards to these people? Why do people send me cards when I don't want to send them cards? Running out at the last minute. If you're a human being, you cannot stop that busyness. But what we can do is practice taking it into illusion. It's not either or. It's not either it's real or it's just an illusion, so never mind. It's just what we do. And we do it in spaciousness, in emptiness. So the key thing in the meditation is when you have the chance, stop jumping in. The level of jumping in is when we connect with other people. It's our participation in the world with others. The level of meditation is to have a small holiday from that participation so that you see things will resolve by themselves. If you leave a good thought, it will go. If you leave a bad thought, it will go. You're actually irrelevant. You're not the gardener. It's doing fine without you. It all just goes away. So all your busyness, all your importance, all your prejudice, all the many special tasks you have to do doesn't matter. Because whatever you do, it's going to vanish. Oh. So now I've retired, I can just take it easy. They're not my kids, I'm the grandparent. They're not mine. It's just stuff. From that lightness of touch, the world begins to sing a little bit, because we're not over-invested in it. But as long as we think that the answer lies in the object, we are forgetfulness of the real nature of the subject. So very important in meditation is to let all thoughts go. If you get some brilliant insight and understanding, just let it go. If you find yourself plagued with negative, difficult thoughts, don't get worried and agitated, because that will act as a kind of glue to make them stick. Just let them go. My mind's full of shit. Oh yeah. It's not my shit. Somebody's shitting in my mind. Sooner or later they'll stop. Then the rain will come and wash it away. But if you think you're doing it, if you get into the omnipotence that I am the owner of my mind, I am the creator of all that happens in my mind, I am in charge of it and I'm responsible for it and I'm not going to put up with it any longer, then you will be very, very busy. Any thoughts or questions on that?
What you're saying about letting thoughts go, it does feel right when thinking inside, but one of the things that I have anxiety about is how far that would go and how much that would change my behaviour in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That fear that it can change so much, and that's going into a place that isn't, you don't feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
That holds me back a bit, I think.
What's your worst fantasy? What might happen?
I don't know. I don't think it's anything that you can sort of make. Well, nothing I can be precise about. It's just that fear. That it's going to be very different.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally different.
And is that fear there all the time?
No. Only when I suppose it's coming through when I'm meditating.
So there you've got an impermanent phenomena, something which comes and goes, but every time it pops out, it's very scary. So you retreat. So the limit of your existence is an impermanent thought.
It feels that way at the time, but I guess you're always continuing anxiety is around it. It might be, but actually,
Well, if you keep thinking about it, it won't be.
of course. Is there anything
Well, it sounds to me as if you're facing this fundamental question, which is it up to me? The thing about the ego is that it is an aspect of our existence which experiences itself as autonomous, as separated off, as in some extent self-existing, and as an agent, as one who is acting. And of course, in our day-to-day work in the world, if we don't do things, they won't get done. If it's your checkbook, you have to sign the check. Nobody else can sign the check. So there are things which only you can do. Therefore, if you don't do them, they won't get done. Then something will happen. We can use that experience as a way of saying, my existence really matters. Which it does and it doesn't. Because if we died today, someone else would take over all the things we do. Even when big, powerful people die, life goes on. So we are fairly small people, not so much is dependent on us. Some people will weep salt tears for a while, and then life will go on, and they'll have a story, oh, my daddy died when I was this age or that age, but their lives will go on. So, of course, many things will change if we vanish, and yet life will still go on. It will go on as it goes on, not according to our plans. But of course our plans don't often get carried through anyway. So there's a story in our head that we are able to make a lot of things happen, when actually we're just rather good at moving with the forces. Just like a politician, changing their position according to circumstances, but doing it with confidence. So part of it is in the meditation, when you get close to that point of anxiety, just stay as relaxed as possible, very close to the anxiety, not falling into it, but not trying to get rid of it as something negative, and see what happens. Because right all the way through your existence, you've been losing yourself. Who you were when you were 5 doesn't exist now. It's gone. You were 5. You did all these things. You had these toys. You're not really playing with them too much now. So it's gone. You've lost yourself 1,000 times. Isn't that amazing? All these people that we were, all these obsessions and things that we were really into, is gone. So if you're still here, having lost yourself, who is the one who is still here? Because it can't be the self that you think you are now. I mean, that's the heart of this. That we are both the emptiness of our situation and the fullness. But the fullness says, yes, this is me, this is me, this is me. But actually it's always vanishing. It's only the emptiness that is reliable and stays. So, really looking into that and trusting, oh, the emptiness is more reliable than the impermanent stories that tell me they're full. Any other thoughts?
I wanted to ask you a question about the relationship between the flux of experience and memory, which sort of dovetails with what you've just been talking about, in the sense that memory can be quite helpful at times in terms of helping orientate ourselves in the world.
Absolutely.
It also can be a trap in the sense that we become trapped by our self-narratives.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering how you saw that relationship between memory, both to make it a bit more complicated, memory both in terms of individual memory and collective memory.
I think if we can experience that what's occurring for us is a kind of theatre or a kind of dream, then you can have a memory of a dream. But if you remember your dream very accurate, it doesn't make your dream real. You have a strong memory of a dream experience. If you go to the cinema and you really like the film and you can remember the film in detail and you're telling it to someone, yeah, and then it did this and then it did that, That doesn't make it real. It was always a movie. So our memories are always memories of movies. We feel that we remember real events. That really happened. But yes, it really happened in the manner of a dream, in the manner of a movie.
So they'd be useful fictions.
They're useful fictions. Everything is a useful fiction. Everything is fiction. It's confectionery. It's artifice. It's a construct of some kind. So, telling ourselves, holding ourselves in place by our memories is wonderful, because it gives us a way of having an interface with other people, so that their dream world and our dream world can somehow meet together and you have some communication. But it doesn't make it real. The word real is linked to this Latin root that speaks of an entity, something which exists in and of itself. But from a Buddhist point of view, nothing exists in and of itself. Everything is dependent on other situations. So part of our memory is, of course, how the brain functions. If you get a big hit on the front of your head, you're going to lose a bit of memory, maybe forever and maybe in a short time. So what we think is ours, my mind, is actually an interplay of awareness and brain functioning. It's not my quality, my memories. So when we start to lose our memory a bit, as people do as they get older, they start to lose words and they find their grammar's getting a bit funny. What are they losing? They are losing something which was there for a while due to causes and circumstances and is now not going to be there. So you could have a sort of bell curve, like you're a little infant and there's not much capacity, and then you get this big thing in the middle period of your life where you can do most things, and then you go into a kind of decline, and then if you live a long time and you get Alzheimer's, there's not much left. Which was the most real bit? It was all real, but one was a more elaborated dream than another. And so, what is the function of being in the richness of our dream? It's maybe to connect with other people and to recognize that it is indeed a dream. So memories are useful, but many people become persecuted. They think, oh, I used to be young, I used to be like this, I used to be so beautiful, I used to have all these opportunities, and now what's happening to me? That doesn't really help anything. Because I like the person I was when I was 30. That was the best year of my life. And in remembering that, I give myself a true definition of what I should be, but I can no longer be what I should be. So I've lost myself. But we're always losing ourselves. And so if memory makes us retrospective, then it becomes very disorganizing, because actually the only place we can live is now. And the question is, if I am fully in wherever I am, I've got the best chance of having an interface. But if we use our memory to tell us I'm in the wrong place, my life hasn't worked out the way it should have. A lot of that work is done by memory. So memory, in a sense, is something we have to hand. It's like in a kitchen, you've got different kinds of knives, you've got chopping boards, different kinds of pots and saucepans for cooking different things. We have all sorts of experiences in our lives, and part of it is how do we bring these together in the moment to cook what's required now. But if we have memories which insist and seem to dominate, then we're not free to make use of all the utensils, all the ingredients. Well, we've been looking at that all the day, really. The experience of what is happening now depends on, A, whether we're a bit open and relaxed and in touch with it, and what is the quality of the ingredients. You know, you can go to the theatre to see a wonderful play, but if your boyfriend's just dumped you beforehand, you're not going to enjoy it very much. You know, you will be filled up with something. You won't be available. You'll be preoccupied. So, in many ways, the quality of the experience determined by, can you really be there? Can you be there in the sense of, yes, that kind of hungry, devouring being there? Or can you be there in a relaxed way that allows it to be however it is with a bit of space? Because very often we confuse intensity with awareness. That things become real because they're intense. And I'm working on a project just now with teenagers who cut themselves. And, you know, always the stories are about the tension between boredom and intensity. Life's boring, life's a drag, I want intensity. I seek intensity, the situation always screws up. I can't bear it, so I cut myself. And then round and round, and these familiar vicious cycles. But intensity is not value. Intensity is a kind of blindness, a kind of throwing oneself into something so that the compacting of it gives us the felt sense, I'm alive, but I'm alive in a rather fraught way. I'm not alive. And that there are almost no choices in these intense moments. They've got a driven directionality in them. So there are many, many factors that determine the quality of our experience. What's happening in the experiential field, our state, and whether we have any space or not. Because if we have space, difficult times are not so bad. If we have no space, if difficult times are all there is, people get crazy. I can't fucking bear it. I should have a better life than this. Why have you got that and I have... You see people just winding themselves up. It's very difficult. It's not fair. I'm going to die and I've never had these things and you... There's no space at all. It's very terrifying for people who are trapped in these states. It's just awful. There's no mediating distance. There's no internal space of reflection. It's all too much. So, the quality of experience, you know, there are many vectors running across that.
Can you say something more about how not to confuse the bodhisattva vow of being of service to others with a kind of codependence and cut-offness from your own needs?
Yeah. What people want and what they need is not always the same. And with the position of being a servant from the Bodhisattva vow, saying, I will help all beings to gain enlightenment, if you meditate and you study the Dharma and you deepen your practice, you will start to know a bit more about what that means. So if somebody comes and asks you for something and says, I really need this, they may be wrong. And to be able to say no to them may be very helpful. This is why in the Tibetan tradition we have these wrathful Buddhas. There's somebody surrounded with flames with a big dagger in his hand. This person will stab you. You say, please give me this, I want it. He says, die. What's he going to kill? He's going to kill your illusory sense that you need it. All the children who will be whining and whining before Christmas, I need this, oh come, I have that, I want that, I want that. Come the end of January, you say, hey Jimmy, why haven't you been playing that? Oh, I don't like it. It's not the one I wanted. What we want is not necessarily anything more than a momentary infatuation. So being the servant of beings is to hold in mind all beings have Buddha nature, which is infinite and open and always fresh. And they also have a lack of presencing in what they really are. So the task of helping others is to help them to waken up to where they already are, not necessarily to take them anywhere else. And if we go back to what I was suggesting earlier, the answer doesn't lie in the object. Usually people ask for something. What do you want? Oh, I need this, I need that. I need help to get a disability allowance. I need this. I need rehousing. I need. On one level, all these needs are true, but the reality is the person hasn't a clue who they are. They're just mouthing all these momentary impulses and anxieties that are coming through, endlessly trying to devour things from the world, get what they want, not get what they don't want. If you give them what they say they want, that won't necessarily help them. Perhaps what one can do is try to give people what they want and stay with them as they experience the fact that it's not what they wanted, so that they can start to see that they shouldn't trust themselves. In fact, the best gift you can give to people is to help them doubt themselves. Self-doubt is not the same as low self-esteem. Self-doubt here means switching the light on and thinking, what am I up to? I've been round the block a few times and I'm still banging my head on the wall. Something funny's gone on here. I can't trust myself. That's a wonderful thing to realize. I'm a bit nuts. I'm off. If I'm off, the best thing I can do is slow down. Why am I doing this? I don't know why, but I want to. Oh. Why? I don't know. I'll just do it. Fabulous slogan, isn't it? Just do it. Can you imagine? This is the point where the race of Homo sapiens became lemmings. Just do it. Here's a cliff. We're running. Let's do it. Whoa! That's it. That's what we did. Just do it. Invade Iraq. Just do it. Afghanistan. Just do it. Burn up all the pension money. Just do it. Close the hospitals. Just do it. Why not? Just do it. We won't get blamed. They're all cowards. Just do it. Throw your life away. Just do it. At this very time, people will be sitting in rooms opening bottles of pills. Just do it. Can't bear it any longer. I'll kill myself. Just do it. Cut yourself open. Just do it. Just do it. Why? Just do it. There's no thinking involved in just doing it. There's no tension. There's no nothing. What we have to do is to say to people, think. Be with yourself. Try to see that life is much more complicated. I can't bear it any longer, so I'm going to kill myself. Why? Where do you think you're going when you die? I don't care. You're daft. Well, people really don't know. They don't want to think. We're going to have new missiles, nuclear missiles. What a wonderful thing to have. Why would we want to have these things? To protect ourselves. Do they protect us? Well, of course they do. What evidence do you have for that? Nice guidelines. Research, we have evidence-based. We didn't have a nuclear war with the Russians, therefore they saved us, therefore we should have more of them. Human beings suffer from over-intelligence. We are much too creative. Our minds are burning off all the time. All this stuff. So, when we encounter human beings, the main thing we should try to do is calm them down. Calm them down. It's okay, sweetie. Don't worry. It'll be fine. You don't need to do that. You don't actually need very much. What you do need to know is, what is the basis out of which the thought comes which says, I need this? Who is the one who needs? That is the real gift of the Bodhisattva. To help the person to see that the ground of our being is infinite, is always satisfied, and yet impulses arise which indicate we are not satisfied. Who is the we? It is a thought. So it's quite an important thing to to think about, well, what really is the task? What is awakening? What do we need to do to ourselves to be more awake? Do we need to try harder? We might think, oh, the people of Macclesfield would benefit from having a stupa on top of one of the hills. So what we need to do is to collect money and then go and buy the land and make it flat and build a stupa, and then we can go there every week and burn some lamps and walk around it. This is a good way to pass the time between birth and death, but it's not very necessary. You won't find the nature of your mind in a stupa. You will only find the nature of your mind if you look at your mind. So if you think that the thoughts in your mind, your holy Dharma thoughts of how you can help things to develop are important, you will fall into the thought, and the thought will take you through the land of your mind, but the blinds will be down. You'll be and you don't see anything. The thought is arising only from emptiness. It has nowhere else to come from. And that's really the bodhisattva work. There's a famous story of it's a Kadampa story, of a monk who went to his teacher saying he was troubled by bad thoughts. And the teacher said, okay, take these 2 piles of stones, some white stones and some black stones, and every time you have a bad thought, put a black stone in front of you. And after a month he came to his teacher and said, it's terrible, it's not helping me, I just have this mountain of black stones. Teacher said, trust me, go back, sit with the practice, observe your mind, and gradually, as the years went by, the number of black stones went down until eventually he had only white stones, only good thoughts in his head. So he goes back to the teacher and says, oh, now my mind is pure. He said, well, what's pure about your mind? You don't know what your mind is. Now you have to go back and recognize there is no difference between good thoughts and bad thoughts. It's only when we recognize that we step out of relative truth. You know, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, they're all about the same in saying it's better to be a good person than a bad person. It's better to try to have good thoughts, you should be hardworking, you should be courageous, you should be generous. No religion saying you shouldn't be any of these things. The big difference with Buddhism is it says, and it's all in the manner of a dream. So although on the relative truth level, it's better to be a good person than a bad person, from the absolute level, there is no difference between them. There is no difference between a Buddha and an ordinary person. That's really important to realize. You can make yourself a better person. You can't make yourself a Buddha. You are already as full of Buddha nature as you need to be. You simply need to awaken to your Buddha nature. It is not constructed. It's not made. Your deeds are made. You can practice being more generous. You can think on a daily basis, I will be more generous to people. I will smile at strangers in the street. I'll give people more of my time and so on. You can consciously do that. But that thought will not make you a Buddha. Buddhahood is awakening, which is to say, to recognize the empty nature of all phenomena. Any other thoughts or questions?
It just seems to me that everything about Western culture is to be revering thinking itself.
Mm-hmm.
So from the minute children are born, we're encouraging them to seek stimulation and think. And when they're 5, the parents want to know if they're going to get to university and all the rest of it. And when you personally realise the kind of the reason for one's suffering is this mental madness, it's a great revelation and a great privilege, I think, to actually discover. But it's when you become much more aware, even though you're only working on yourself perhaps in a very small way, you just become much more aware of how other people are suffering in this madness. But actually transferring to them the idea that to look at what they're doing is not easy, because it's so alien, isn't it, to
Western mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, sometimes you might very gently or subtly say to somebody, you know, maybe if you just kind of sit with it, and they just, it's almost like they're addicted to thought, as one as being oneself. It's a big shift to make, isn't it?
It is indeed a very big shift. And of course, it's not that thoughts in themselves are bad. It's exactly the addictive quality. It's something about how can we play with thoughts.
And also the fear of thinking they're under the mastery of thoughts, because people will say, I can't stop thinking. And that's their burden, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And indeed, we can't stop thinking. And this is why it's I think these Dzogchen teachings are enormously important, because to stop the arising in thoughts on your mind is generally to make yourself stupid. It's not that thought is a problem. What is a problem is being immersed in thought as if it was the only game in town. It's the same, like, say, with alcohol. There are some people who can have a drink, and there are some people who drink to get drunk. Drinking to get drunk, someone's sitting in their lonely bedsit, with 2 bottles of white wine from the supermarket. That's not having a drink. That's drowning. And it's the same way thoughts arise in the mind, and they are part of this creativity and freedom of expression of ourselves. They're part of this movement of these reflections in the mirror. But if we are intoxicated with our thoughts, if we're addicted to them, if we're drowning in our thoughts, merged in them, then we're just bumping around in these things, and we're never getting out of it. And then we think, God, stop this fucking noise in my head. I can't bear it. But it's not the thought that's the problem. It's the fact that you don't know how to be at ease with the thought. The thoughts are coming and going. The thoughts are just coming and going. But what happens with people in that state is they're all attending to the impact of the thought, and they're not watching that it's going. It's like the game that kids used to play, running up and banging on someone's door, and then when they come to open it, you run away. The kids have already gone. There's no point in shouting. The street's empty. The thoughts have gone. But if they come back here, I'm going to get them. Well, they're gone. You've lost it. Just let them go. Thoughts are self-liberating. Oh, I don't need to get rid of them. So who is it who is experiencing the thought? I am. And that's the glue. That's the false identification that says, I am the thinker of my thought, rather than the shining, radiant clarity of the empty aspect of the mind illuminates thoughts, feelings, and sensations as they manifest. And when we do that, then we start to get some relief. But it's, as you say, in our Western culture, it doesn't give any encouragement in that direction. Okay, shall we take a break there? And we'll come back and do some sitting. Okay, so we do some more practice. This very simple but very useful practice we did before, sitting, skeleton carrying the weight. Our gaze is out into the space in front of us. We're not staring at the far wall, but just letting the eyes rest in the space as we allow the spaciousness of the environment and the spaciousness within ourselves to link. And we make this sound ah 3 times, and ah just releases all conceptualizations, all energetic charging out into the atmosphere, just letting go. Now, of course, we may feel, well, that's not doing anything for me. I'm so caught up in all this stuff. How is just saying ah going to get rid of it? Well, who is saying I am so caught up in it? That's a thought. Where is that thought gone? Where is that thought gone? Every time some voice in ourselves says it hasn't worked, or it's impossible, or I don't understand that, observe that thought and it's gone. If you believe the thought, if you allow it to mesmerize you, you will fall into it, and then it will appear to be true because of the resonance of what it says. It will feel true even though it's gone. We have a royal family. Her Gracious Majesty the Queen. Queen of what? You know, come on. She's still the Queen, but she's not Queen of anything except her private income, which is vast. She doesn't do anything in Parliament. She doesn't rule or reign over anything. The Australians don't even want her to come and visit anymore. You know, things can appear to be real, to have a value, because we're all suckers. Huh? We make them real. We see this with the whole cult of personality. You know? All these people who are empty and who are pumped up in all sorts of ways to appear very important, and then because they appear important, people take them as important and then think about them, although they're completely vapid. That is exactly what our thoughts are like. That's why reading magazines like Heat and Hello are very, very helpful. The more trashy the magazine, the more it shows you how mad things are. Or by the Daily Sport, where they have a special event is being able to see some rock star's knickers as they get out of a car. Now, there's a really fascinating thing. So, here's something which is clearly not in the least importance to anyone, anywhere on the planet. It's not going to do anything about anything, and yet it is made important. So if these empty, meaningless stories, like, you know, these celebrity, get me out of here, or the Big Brother house, these are fascinating to watch. Empty, meaningless nonsense which starts to shine. You know, Tibetans have this story, or this saying that even a dog's tooth will give out light if you have faith. But, you know, even Jordan's silicon tits will seem amazing if you're a stupid man. It's like that. You polish something and it'll start to shine. That if you can really see that functioning in the world, that's what happens in your head. That's what makes meditation very difficult. Because we ourselves are polishing bits of coal and thinking that it's really shining. So the key thing is stop polishing. When we think we can't do it, that's because we've got too much elbow grease. We are convinced somehow that it is important. Our practice now is to let it go. Let it go. We don't need any of this stuff. We don't need these thoughts. But if I don't have these thoughts in my head, who will I be? Well, that's what we're trying to see. Clearly, in response to Kevin's earlier remark, you won't be yourself. You'll be something else. You'll be in a more open and relaxed state than you ordinarily are. So it will feel strange, it will feel unfamiliar. But maybe that will be better. So the practice with the 3R is just to relax. And whenever you find yourself tangling back in, getting preoccupied, running storylines, just let them go. Let them go. Today's newspaper has no news worthy of print. Blank pages. Blank pages. You go out shopping and you come home empty-handed. There wasn't anything I wanted. What do you want this stuff for? It's comforting, it's reassuring, it gives you something to do, something to worry about, something to be on about. If you let go of it, life will be different. You're not going to get mad, the roof's not going to fall in. Here we are, sitting in a room, it's quite safe, a rainy afternoon in Macclesfield. We can just open up a bit of space. Yeah? So we do these 3 and we sit for a while, just being with whatever is there. And whenever it gets tight, just relax into the out breath. And then just continue with it. There are several things which are very important in that practice. The first is that presence is always now. It can't be going backwards. If your mind becomes heavy, if you get lost, as soon as you wake free from that, you just move on. There's nothing to be gained by going back and looking at something. There are no mistakes. Whatever was there has gone. And when it was there, it offered an opportunity to be present with it. When it's gone, it doesn't offer that opportunity anymore. So its value or usefulness is over. If you start thinking, why did that happen? I shouldn't have done that. This is hopeless. All you're doing is pulling together a series of thoughts and weaving together a construction of what has happened. So it's very much about trusting that the freshness of the moment is the result itself. We're not trying to be anywhere, to enter any other state other than the possibility of being with whatever is there. So sometimes the mind is dull or heavy or sleepy. Just be with that. And if you start to vanish, then you come back. As soon as you're back, that's gone and you're here. And just keep practicing, staying very gently with whatever is there. Remember, the content of the mind doesn't define your value. Therefore, don't worry about the content of the mind. It's just the content of the mind. But if you start to think it shouldn't be happening, I don't want it this way, if you start to become actively trying to change it, that in some ways good intention will itself become a bridge or a glue that will bind you into over-attention to the content of your mind, leading to a forgetfulness of the relaxed spaciousness. So, just again and again. Sometimes you can sit for hours in this kind of meditation, and sometimes it seems just like nothing's happening at all. What is happening is what is happening. It's not special. It's not like in a tantric practice where you would visualize a deity and there are rays of light coming out of the deity and you're saying prayers and making offerings. There's something to be done there. Something that seems very shiny and important and holy and special. Here, we're just observing the natural liberation of all phenomena. There is no catching. Whatever you try to catch, whatever tries to catch you, just slips away. It's very simple. Any thoughts about that? Any questions?
Question about what you were talking about earlier, if that's all right.
Okay.
Are accepting the world as it is and taking action to make it better necessarily in opposition? And what do you think of the engaged Buddhist movement in this respect?
Well, it always depends on what is the basis out of which one moves. Buddha taught that we all suffer from 5 poisons: stupidity or mental dullness, aversion or hatred, aggression, desire, greed, attachment, pride, and jealousy. Since we all have these 5, we shouldn't be surprised that people act in these ways. So the first thing is not to be surprised that property developers are nasty and unkind, that people who want to sell soya to McDonald's are willing to cut down forests. You know, selfishness shouldn't surprise us. It's what our world is built on. And so part of the question is, if we're going to be engaged Buddhists, what is the goal? Is the goal to stop the activity of others or to help others awaken? You see, I mean, if you're in Greenpeace and you drive your little boat in front of a big whaler, you may save the whale, but you make the whalers pretty pissed off. You increase their anger and aversion. So, is that skillful or unskillful? I mean, unskillful means are means which help the people over on this side, but say fuck you to the people on that side. So, if we say, actually, we want to help all sentient beings, it becomes quite difficult to think, how can I go about being useful to all beings? Which would mean being without edge, without prejudice. That's really quite difficult. So I think it's a wonderful thing to be an engaged Buddhist, but what are you going to engage with and how are you going to do it? How shall we stop other people doing things? In the time of the Vietnam War, some Vietnamese monks burnt themselves alive as a gesture towards stopping war. Is that noble? Is that virtuous? Is that insane? Is that crazy? I mean, what is that? It's often very difficult to know what actions are. So there's a difference between condoning how the world is, agreeing, going along with, being a fellow traveller in situations, and developing the precision necessary to bring about real change. Oh, that's very nice. Soothing, balm for the soul.
I don't used to have it switched on. I'm really
That's all right.
mortified.
It's nice music, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm sure we can find better things to be mortified about. So, I mean, there's a story of, and I'm aware we were going to stop a bit earlier, so I won't go too much on, because some of you probably have plans, but there's a story of Milarepa. Some of you may know this story, where towards the end of his life he had many students in meditation, and they came to him one day and said, Master, shouldn't we, we've been in these caves for a long time, shouldn't we go and help the people in the valley, because they don't understand any Dharma? And he said, well, if you were to wait in the cave 5 more years and carry your meditation through to its proper result, do you imagine then when you go into the valley there'll be nobody left to save? And there's something about, if we're going to be engaged Buddhists, what capacity would need to be ripe in us to really be able to practice a kind of non-violence? One has to have quite a capacity. And the danger is that one over-provokes oneself and ends up provoking a situation. So I would suggest the way to become an engaged Buddhist is to become a disengaged Buddhist first. If you're a Buddhist who can disengage from this treadmill of action, reaction, then you have the basis for engaging. So I don't think there's a contradiction, but to marry the two successfully so that wisdom and compassion are really flowing in the same direction means you have to be profoundly self-critical about illusions of having arrived someplace. Because the worst thing, really, in Buddhism is to substitute dogma for experience, to substitute empty blah blah for it actually being at your fingertips. We can so easily cheat ourselves. We learn something that runs around in our head and then we think we've got it. But all we're doing is creating smoke screens. Okay, one last question then, we'll come to an end for today.
Still in response to an earlier question about being how I can be a servant to others,
Mm-hmm.
that when you meeting others' needs, that people don't necessarily, their needs are not necessarily appropriate or right, but we can't make judgments about other people's needs, so isn't it appropriate to respond where we think we can help?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think I was talking about the difference between wants and needs, or desires and needs. You know, and that often we don't know for ourselves the difference between a desire or something that we want and something that we actually need.
You mentioned disability, say for
Yeah.
example, disability benefits.
Yeah.
And people needing a health or any kind of welfare benefit. I mean, that is about their survival. So surely.
Well, not necessarily. I think in the therapy. Well, it can be, but in the therapeutic community I'm connected with, I think the fact that they have a disability officer who comes around every week is probably one of the most harmful things in that therapeutic community, because it maintains people with the idea, I need to be taken care of. Society expects nothing of me. Society would actually like me to sit in my room and kill myself. That's what society would really like, because the therapeutic community costs a lot of money. You know, I'm not a productive member of society. Now, it seemed to me, if you really want to help people, there are so many things that we could do that would involve lots of other people. So many people have been made irrelevant. So, what is the real need?
Those things can be done in parallel.
Sure.
With, you know, as a, you know, having a safety net, while then other things are done
Sure.
alongside these people to enable them to become more autonomous.
That's true. But if you have a choice between working and finding some sense of identity through participation and being taken care of, many people will choose to be taken care of. And that being taken care of situation is not very beneficial, I would say. Now, that's a judgment, and it goes back to your question, well, am I entitled to make a judgment about other people? Well, of course, one can be patronizing, one can feel that one knows best, but I'm willing to be patronizing and know best. I'm willing to say that to be made irrelevant when there is a lot to be done is a ghastly, ghastly fate. And that the invitation into participation has to be, sweetheart, wake up, there's something to be done. It's like Kierkegaard says, you know, the beauty of suffering is that it calls us to do something. There is something to be done. And if you anesthetize people, if you make them suffer in silence rather than scream, then the world goes dead. We can use people's screams. So your life's fucking difficult. Right? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? I'll be here with you. What are we going to do? There's an invitation to come in and get on with it. Rather than, oh, it's so hard and it's so difficult, and just sit in your corner and don't cause any trouble. And I think we do abandon lots of people in that way. You know. Same with this whole thing about ASBOs. You know, disturbed teenagers, they need somebody to meet them in some way, and they need to get on with something. I mean, when I was 16, I had a lot of energy. And, you know, I was lucky enough growing up in Scotland, having a bike, riding out in the hills, camping out, doing all these things, swimming a lot. You know, if you live in a shitty environment where these things might be looked down on, what do you do with all that? You know, if you're 16, you got a lot of testosterone, you're bumping up and down with the damn stuff, you know. You got to, you know, it's crazy. It's something that we say to these young people, you're irrelevant. And of course, a spiritual practice means that always you're relevant. If we, you know, to take the Bodhisattva vow means every moment, every breath you take, there is value in what you do. The Bodhisattva vow adds value to everything. So part of our question, I think, is how can we help people add value to their lives, even if on the level of manifest activity they can't do very much. You know, they also serve who simply stand and wait. You know, there's something about that. In a disability, however it is, there's something about opening the heart and being for the other. And the danger is that we get into a poor me, and that poor me is a kind of imploding feeling, hard done by, less than, both angry and ashamed, which I see in so many people, rather than there is a way to be here. And I don't have any big answers about how one would go about doing it, but it does seem to me that we can betray people by saying, I don't expect anything of you. Okay, so we can do a last little sit, and then we'll end for today and start tomorrow morning at 10. And we can just do this for quite a short period of time, because this kind of relaxation is very useful, just to enter into it, to open and then continue with the movement of your life. It's not a state apart, rather it's to open the space of participation. Jen lama drjene drowa chi chama lupa dei sala ke pasho